So WYSIWYG is the theme for today. WYSIWYG. Yeah. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get. Okay. So what you see is what you get. So here we have a picture of Unitarian community. So yeah, AI. Thanks to AI. So it shows a representation of what we have here, community. So again, what you see is what you get. So a nice, wonderful, loving community, I'd like to think. Nice, good for sharing and support. But before we go into anything else or do anything else, we'll go into our first hymn, which is number 14 in our purple books. If I haven't got books, if you look at the screen, Bring Many Names. So I want to find something that might give an idea on this theme, and I came across this poem. So, Crabbit Old Woman is a poem written in 1966 by Phyllis McCormack. Working as a nurse in Sunnyside Hospital, Montrose, the poem is written in the voice of an old woman in a nursing home who's reflecting upon her life. I won't do the old woman voice. So what do you see, nurse? What do you see? What are you thinking when you look at me? a crabby old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit and faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply. When you say in a loud voice, I do wish you'd try. Who seems not to notice the things that you do, and forever is losing a stocking or shoe. Who quite unresisting lets you do as you will, with bathing and feeding the long day to fill. So that what you're thinking, is that what you see? Then open your eyes. You're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I move at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a small child of 10 with a father and mother and brothers and sisters who love one another. A girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon a lover she'll meet. A bride soon 20, my heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25 now, I have young of my own who need me to build a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young now grow fast, bound together with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons have grown up and gone, but my man stays beside me to see I don't mourn. At 50, once more, babies play round my knee. Again we know children, my loved one and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look at the future, I shudder with dread. For my young are all busy, with young of their own, and I think of the years and the love I have known. I'm an old woman now, and nature is cruel. 'Tis her jest to make old age look like a fool. The body crumbles, grace and vigour depart. There's a stone where once I had a heart. But inside this old carcass, a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living all over again. I think of the years, all too few and gone too fast, and I accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, nurse, open and see. But a crabby old woman, look closer, see me. So I just like the idea of course, this woman is not able to look after herself and relies on the nurses, and that point of view from the nurse may see something totally different to how the old woman feels inside or how she is. The whole world of thoughts, feelings and emotions all stirring inside, and yet that's not always seen when you look at someone else. So as we think upon that and dwell, we can go into our next hymn, which is We Sing the Joy of Living. So what you see is what you get. So quite often, we say seeing is believing. Although these days with AI, seeing is not always believing. Quite often we get a photograph. So easy now just to take something away or add something in, or take somebody out or add somebody in, which you'll see quite often. But also with video, that's also, we think, something that you would easily determine if it was false or fake. But that's getting harder and harder these days. So we're also affected by things that happen, like cause and effect. For instance, we know that there's a such thing as gravity. So if I was to knock this computer over, it would fall onto the floor, and so cause and effect, that'd be the end of this presentation, and everybody go, hey! No, the end of the presentation, because of gravity, cause and effect. So we are affected by things we see, things that happen, and things that we experience, whether that be good or bad, or whether we deem that as good or bad. So what you see is always different to everybody else. Have you ever seen these things online? You look at a picture, what's the first thing that you see? If you see a lion, then you've got a brave heart. Or if you see a deer, you're very graceful, or something like that. So what you see is not always what somebody else sees, depending. Or you can see you've seen that picture where we're going to put it up. You see a young woman or you see an old crone. Which do you see first? I don't know if you've seen these type of things. But it is your perception and what you are trying to determine from the pieces of information that you are seeing, which can always be different to everybody else. So everybody's got a point of view, and everybody has an idea of what is right for them. So who are we then, personally, socially, and professionally? If you take the likes of Robin Williams, for instance, socially, I can imagine him being the life of every party, a fun guy, always cracking a joke. In his personal life, he was quite depressed and struggled with life. And so that was his way of compensating for making somebody laugh. That made him be able to cope with life. And so professionally, he is very successful in a lot of films. But he had three different ways of approaching life, or the three different ways people would see him. And very much like that myself. When I finished school, I went to work, and boy, that was a big leap, a big change from having everything, you're just following lessons, to now having to negotiate life and get a job, pay money out, and yeah. I worked in a very dingy, dark place. It wasn't very great, it was very dangerous, and people used to make fun of each other. It used to be, I don't know, maybe it's an engineering thing, or maybe it's just life. And I learned very early to adapt, and you put up a veneer, a face, a mask. So what people saw wasn't really ultimately me inside, it's just something I had to use to navigate my way through life. So from the outside, I was maybe this timid kind of person who didn't say a great deal, but really I was scared of opening my mouth, because whatever you said was turned around and made fun of. But that was, it's a bit like school, but a lot more serious. So yeah, we all have these different ways of being, just to cope, really. So how do we see the world? I have different ways of looking at the world. I can look at the world as a whole, and we see Ukraine and Palestine at war, and that's only a couple of wars. There's probably 20 odd wars going on at any one time in the world. And we can be affected by that. We can be affected by the media, the radio, TV, and we feed on that information. And I know a lot of people get affected by that at work. And I've probably said this before, it's like, well, what are you doing with that information? Because I know there's one person I work with, they become very sad and become very upset by what they see. But they're not doing anything about it. They just sit with that and they carry that for the rest of the day until the next morning when they watch the news and they get their fill again. And so it affects them personally. So, you know, without actually ever doing anything about it. But if you go back 100 years or even more, way back when, people's world was what the community they had, and they never ventured any further from that. And so, you know, depending on what type of community they was in, that was their world. And you know, so it could be peaceful, it could be not so much, depending on what they had to deal with. So they weren't necessarily affected by wars further afield, unless they came over to their part of the world or their part of the country. But I often ask myself, what do we not see? Now, we don't see gravity, but we know that exists. Again, you know, Newton, apple falls from a tree, falls on his head, that's gravity. But there's things that we don't see, such as love. We don't see love, we just see the effects of love. I like to think it's something more that exists beyond a moment of admiration or beyond something which we interact with on a physical level. I like to think it is something that is there on a non-physical level. So there's lots of things we don't understand and lots of things we can see and a lot of things we can't see that still affects us. We are influenced by these things. So how do these affect faith? So we have faith in something that we believe or believe is right or is going to happen. Faith has many facets, really, but and there's so many things that are yet to be explained to us by science that we hold on to faith, that we need something to hold on to get us through life. But if we use science as a yardstick for everything, then our understanding becomes limited to what science can tell us. Which you would think in this day and age is there's not much left to discover, but I think science still has a long way to go to uncover a lot of different things. There's things that we don't yet understand from our past that science cannot determine or tell us. So there's many things in the future that we have yet to encounter that science still cannot tell us. So can we use this to navigate our way through life? Can we use faith to navigate our way through life if we don't just use science alone? Well, I think so, because it's been going on for many, many years in different forms. As I go into different communities, people use faith in which to determine how they interact with people and communities. And my experience has been a very positive one, because ultimately in a community, in different communities, we want to connect, we want to come together, we want to support each other, and these are the things that really help us get on in life. And for me, that's very important. And I see people quite often go into different places solely for community, solely for the idea that if they were to struggle, then they have somebody that will turn around and say, "Are you okay? Can I help in any way?" And that's community. I was reminded just recently, from one of the shows I used to watch, Pilgrim, and it was Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen, who he was a pagan representative because he didn't really have a faith, but he decided he was going to be a pagan representative. But he goes to church every Sunday, and he goes for solely for community. That was the whole reason why he goes to church, and he enjoys that, and that serves him. So that's fine. So faith and belief can give us hope, and then wisdom gives us discernment. So we have to use these together, I believe, from my perspective. And then understanding gives us possibilities. I think everything is in a state of potential. It's like energy is always in a state of potential, and it transforms and it moves, and it's always moving, always changing, just like life is always changing. So understanding that life always changes, we have to adapt to that. So for me, my belief and my faith in my belief, with a little bit of wisdom and discernment, gives me the opportunity to navigate my way through life. So it's a combination of things that we need, not just food, water, and shelter. We need something that's going to support us in all the different ways in which we need. So another element that we can't quite often see is intuition. And quite often, if we trust our intuition, we don't have to look at things to say whether it's right or wrong, but it can lead us to a destination using our moral compass. Is this right? Is this going to do harm? You know, we can ask these certain questions. So intuition can sometimes lead us onto the right path where uncertainty is in the back of our minds. So having a moral compass is quite often important for us to determine whether the things that we are doing is right or wrong. And sometimes we've just got to go with that, because deep in our gut it's telling us to go a certain way and to give us a certain direction. For me, this gives me maneuverability to see a wider picture. When I did my training, I started to go into different faith paths, and I had a very particular idea of what that was all about, from what I grew up, how I grew up, and what I learned. But I realised that what I knew was not the all and everything of what this particular faith path was all about. So I put that to one side, and I went into each path sort of experiencing that anew, total brand new, and the idea of what that was all about. And I come up with a particular perspective on each one of these faith paths, that from the very point of where they started, they had community, they had people's lives at heart, and they wanted something good for everybody. We learn different things, and we learn how to mistrust, how to fear. But at the very beginning, it's trying to lead us into something brighter, something positive. And I saw that in each one I went into. So to take into consideration what might normally be rejected because of our misunderstanding. So that's what I was doing. I had a particular understanding of a situation, something that was presented to me, and I was viewing that, I was judging it, so I had to put that to one side. Once I did that, I understood a deeper meaning behind different situations that was arising. And so I heard a term coined from one of the people who was training with, called edge walker. So I like to think of myself as an edge walker. I walk on the edge of different faiths. And with that, I see the connection with people, connection with humanity, and if I leave the judgment to one side for a moment, I just see the people themselves, and with that, I experience a deeper connection with people. I found that hard many years ago because I was not a people person, because people are all different. And so, because people weren't just like me, because, I'm perfect, obviously. Because people weren't just like me, people was all different. I struggled with that. I struggled with that for a long time. And then I got the idea of people being, it's like, I don't know, it's like having the same meal over and over again, sausage and chips, sausage and chips, sausage and chips, and you think, oh, I'll add a bit of curry sauce on that, spice it up. It brings a different kind of experience when we bring different kinds of art, we bring different kinds of abilities, different kinds of, all kinds of things that we need, we exchange and we experience, and that colours our lives and makes it better. So we might look at somebody who has a particular idea of life, and they may be going down in a particular path, and you think, well, what has that person got to offer me or our community? But what flourishes is a wonderful sharing and a connection which brings a wider possibilities. It's that potential of what flourishes when we are open and accept what is unknown to us, or we don't maybe fully understand. So I like that idea. So there is a way of communicating with people, and something I trialed once. No, I do quite often. But when I first heard about this, I thought, I'll have to try and see how this works. To look at somebody without looking at the physical aspect from what I judge them to, or what kind of person I judge them to be. And I just looked at the heart and who their potential could be. So if I looked at the source of who they are, you could call that love, could call that spirit, could call that God. But I looked at them in a total different way. And that conversation I had with them turned out to be totally different to how I expected that to go. Because I was not being judgmental from the face of that person. I looked at the very heart. And for some reason, what I was hearing seemed to be more positive than negative. Negative coming from the fear and judgment side of things. So it's something I try and employ more commonly now when I'm going into different communities and different people. And I find it bears a lot of fruit for me. But then you've got to think, what do you see when you look in the mirror? What you see is what you get. So what do you see when you look in the mirror? Now, I can see, as I'm getting older, I can see a few wrinkles starting to form. So I'm losing that youth a little bit, even though I might still feel younger inside. And I see the tired eyes sometimes. And I see my perception of myself. But my perception of myself is a lot different from other people's perception of me. And I know through life, some people really dislike me for whatever reason. Some people really love me for whatever reason. And that's fine. That's for these people, for them to deal with. But you have to look at yourself and love yourself. Forgive yourself for what lurks in the background, and whatever hides deep within, let that come forward and lay that to one side gently, because we hold these burdens on our back, we carry them, and this shapes us sometimes. It takes us into a deeper negative aspect of ourselves if we let it, or we can go face to face and make it a positive aspect of ourselves. So looking in the mirror can sometimes be daunting, but it can be also surprising and encouraging and give us good things. So that's a case of learning to look at things differently. Not to see things on a superficial level or on a level in which we may be able to determine from a glance or yes. I know a lot of people who say, I'm a really good judge of character. I can look at a person now and instantly know who they are and how they are. And I know a lot of people who hold this true as to being true. But I often think back in mind, have you really talked to that person? Do you really know that person? Many years ago, I did it's like a supervisor's course. And she had all these cards laid down, face down. You didn't know what they were. And you start off, the scenario is you've got a person at work and they're being a bit of trouble. So you've got to then determine by these cards which decision do you take. Now, out of a class of 20 people, there are only 3 people who managed to get to the end of this. I was one of them. So you've got this person who's been disruptive at work, or destructive by some kind, and this determined what kind of supervisor person you're going to be, and through this series of turning these cards over, each decision you were making, I eventually got to the point that this person having trouble at home, and it was being manifested at work, and through a discussion was able to address that, so that it wasn't a disruptive influence when they came to work. Now, it's difficult to get to that point, to give somebody a chance to see them differently to who they presented themselves as at that moment in time. But it wasn't who they truly was or truly are. And I've seen that in many situations over my lifetime. So the paradox of this is seeing is not always believing. Because what are you truly seeing? Are you seeing all of this situation, or you're not? And we still have to look at situations, people, communities, and whatever you are being dealt with or presented by. But this is my personality. I always like to give it a chance, give it an opportunity to fully understand, or at least look at it from a more positive point of view. Because in my mind, negativity never gets us anywhere. Or in my mind, war never brings peace. So how do we build a community when everyone sees differently? Now that's a big question. But I see lots of communities, and we have an interfaith community which all see differently, but we come together with the idea that we respect each other's right to think differently. We hold on to things that we agree with, and we look at what makes joy, what holds a space for people to be heard. So everybody has a voice, everybody wants to be heard, and sometimes that's enough. We give support to who need help, and we provide service for those who need support. There's many things that you can do in a community which can keep people together. It can have cohesion, and it can achieve a lot more than people individually trying to achieve something on their own. So what you see is what you get. It's not always clear cut and precise. So sometimes it's good to give it a chance. So with that thought and idea, we're going to our final hymn. Each seeking faith is seeking light. So, we cannot change the world, but we can change the way we see the world. This is, I believe we can change the world, but sometimes we're in situations where we feel that we cannot do anything, we cannot change the outcome. But we can change the way we look at the situation we're in. And that then becomes your world. I like the idea that the power we hold within us is ultimate and cannot be taken away from us unless we choose to do that or to choose to let it. So seeing is believing, but what we see is always different from everyone else. We impose the limits of our understanding onto our reality, and it is that in which we can only describe to others. This is why we have a difference of opinion. We sit in our own peace, knowing that we may not be able to change the world, but we can change ourselves in the hope that like-minded people come together and this becomes our chosen community, just like we have to do. you very much, everybody.